All right.
Nice.
What's up, Lab Coat agents? Consistently traveling the globe and selling real estate at the same time. There is a secret to it. And today, I'm Mike Bernier, and I'm here with two amazing people that have a great story to tell. I think a lot of real estate agents can benefit from this. We have Adam Curry and Jennifer Murtland on today. Welcome, guys. And
Thank you.
if we could start, Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about you, your background, and some of the travel, just sort of a brief overview of some of the things you're doing in travel and real estate, and then Adam, we can get with you next. But I'd love to hear a little bit about this.
Yeah, sure. My favorite color is blue. No, it is, but I've been in real estate in some way or form. I started off as an investor in 2008, got my license in 2010. I've built a team, shrank a team, built a team, shrank a team, all that stuff. So in October of 2018, I actually left Cincinnati, Ohio, and traveled the world for a whole year. I just got back this past October. I traveled with a large group of 32 people. They were all working professionals, mostly like IT and marketing, and I was like one of the only salespeople. And I actually, before I left, didn't even know, I barely knew how to use Facebook. Like even one time I accidentally was trying to tell somebody happy birthday, and apparently I told myself happy birthday. I don't know how it works, but I could not do it. So I was really nervous about that, but it worked out great.
Well, that's awesome. So Adam, a little bit about you. What's your backstory?
Yeah, so I'm just starting my 6th year in real estate. Jen was actually my coach in my office when I started out. She was a productivity coach here. And so a lot of, thanks go to her for having success. Anyways, started out with selling primarily single family homes. About halfway through that transition into selling single family homes and investment property. Jen and I kind of got along because I knew she was an investor and I wanted to do that as well. So then, fast forward us to right now. And my team is selling only investment property, and then I invest myself. And then for me, my traveling started in March of 2018. Jen one up me and went to 17 countries. I went to 11, and we traveled. It was my wife and I that traveled, opposed to a large group. So Jen's got a really cool program that she traveled with, where our trip was all self-planned, and by self-planned, I mean my wife actually, booked all the flights and the hotels. I had nothing to do with that. I just booked the office space, so we had a nice place to work everywhere we went. And we traveled until 2 days before Christmas of 2018, and had great success. And our business actually grew by 27% that year as a team. So it was pretty wild.
Amazing. So, as a broker owner, a team leader, a real estate coach, I personally deal with a lot of agents and what their fears are. I hear a lot about what their anxieties are, what their fears are. And for the average agent on the street listening to this today, thinking about picking up and leaving their business to go travel the world while still in their business, that I know that's their minds are just blown.
Right.
So first off, my question for either of you guys, did you have fear and anxiety around leaving to indefinitely go travel the globe? Tell me about that.
So yes, we both separately were completely nervous about leaving. For me, at the time I had a team of 10 people, and I was I was nervous because I thought they would feel abandoned, or that I don't know, I thought the customers that we would lose a bunch of people. So that was my biggest fear, that we would basically go bankrupt.
Right.
It didn't happen.
Good. How about you?
Yeah. So funny enough, I have to show this. So when my wife and I were planning this trip, because Jen is a high D and I'm an analytical person. So my wife and I spent 4 hours when we decided we were going to do this trip to create this jank mind map. It's 3 pieces of paper taped together, but it's 3 or 4 hours, and we listed all of our fears, and a lot of them, there was the business side of stuff, and then there was the real life side of stuff, what happens if you get sick or someone dies, and then the business side is what if we run out of money? How do we plan around that? So 2 of the big things that we prioritized going into our trip was we just got married, so it was getting out of debt, because we were idiots and we had a big lavish wedding and put it on credit cards. So we paid off all that, and then we saved up enough money so we could at least, guarantee a minimum amount of time on this trip.
So how much preparation and planning did you guys do, either of you guys or both of you guys, before you actually set sail? I mean, was this something that you planned for a month, 6 months? Like, what went into this?
You can go, Adam.
Yeah, so Jen, being her personality, hers will be much less than mine. I think mine was probably 12 to 14 months of planning. And it's my over-analytical mind trying to cover every base. At the time when we started planning for that trip, I was a solo agent, and that progressed from moving from a solo agent with my database and a yellow notepad to hiring someone to help build the database that we were going to use and work out of. And then that person ended up loving, what was going on so much. Her name was Kate. She was great. She became the physical presence for us while we were gone on the trip. So, 14 months for me, again, remember that I'm engineer over analytical mind.
Right. Well, how about you, Jen?
Well, mine, I mean, I couldn't use Facebook, but Remote Year was the program I traveled with, and it did pop up on my Facebook in March of 2018. And I just thought it was a scam, but I clicked on it, and then I left in October.
Oh, wow.
So
about 6 months.
Yeah, not long. And that was only because that's when that's when the program launched. So I probably would have left earlier, but.
So I'm sure we're going to dive in a little bit to the traveling, to that, what is it, the travelingrealtor.com? Is that the registration?
Right? That's right. Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to dive into that in just a minute on this, but let's talk real quick about one thing I see with agents a lot. There's a big difference between being self-employed and conducting business and being a business owner that owns and operates a business. I think there's a big difference between that. So Adam, you brought up a minute ago, you started as a solo agent, transitioned into building some business structure in order to leverage so you could leave. But tell me a little bit about that. Being able to step away and have your business run itself without you there every single minute of the day.
Right.
Tell me about what went into some of that.
Yeah. So when Jen and our trips didn't completely overlap. I left before her. She got back after. We sat down and we talked about what are these things that worked and didn't work and what overlapped. And I think, I'm sorry, I mentioned I'm off caffeine right now. Can you repeat the question?
I guess my real question is, you had to go from kind of self-employed conducting business to a business owner that has systems that run the business for you, right? I mean, at some level when you leave, you can't physically be here to run your business. You have to have systems in place. Right. Tell me about how you built those systems, a little bit of background into that. What went first? How did this all start and form?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I was living with, a business on paper my first 3 or 4 years in business. And that couldn't physically be possible to do while we're traveling abroad. So I recognized that. And I, heard for the first 3 years of my business, you got to get a database and, feed it and work from it. Well, maybe the trip was the best thing because it finally forced me, because I knew that had to happen. So I hired Kate, who's a super smart girl, at that time, her job, and she was getting paid to build the database. There was no guarantee that she was going to like it enough to, become the licensed agent that she became. But her job was to build that database for us to set up for us, just think about people and properties. That's how we break it down. We've got our list of people that we think we're going to do business with, and we've got our list of properties that we think we're going to do business with. And we broke that down into tiers, and then we just started communicating with that based on the priority that was built into our database. So if it's in the top, we're communicating with them weekly. If it's tier 2, monthly. If it's tier 3, quarterly. Same thing happens with people and properties. And then because we had, I had been doing that on paper, but I just wasn't systematic about it. It translated well when it went to the database. So my business is way more nurture based compared to Jen's. Hers, she's the cold calling queen and, gets people signed up day of. But, I'll put someone in my database and they'll become a closed deal anywhere between 4 months to a year. And that has a lot more to do with, the investment property. There's not a lot of urgency with selling investment property opposed to somebody that has to move, across the country for a job. So So that was one system, hiring her to build that system. She loved the business, and then she decided she wanted to get licensed. So I said, great, you already know what we're doing. And now I want you to become a part of the team. And we co-listed everything the entire time I was gone. I helped get her licensed. I paid to get her licensed, and we co-listed everything so that, I mean, we're in different time zones. So I have to think that when I'm, 12 hours ahead of everybody, I can't physically be awake all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I did work 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., religiously. So Jen and I will get into the hours that we worked. There were much less on this trip, but the times that we weren't available, they knew to get a hold of Kate. So between Kate, a closing coordinator, and we also interviewed and went through like 30 virtual assistants. That was kind of how we built out the team. I took a course through Craig Goodliff, it's a Keller Williams agent, and he had a great course. Took a bunch of notes and followed them step by step, and hired a virtual assistant who also helped leverage.
Okay. So that's I love this. I love that topic. So now that you're hiring virtual assistants, your job at some point, or Kate's job, somebody's job, has to go into managing, training, and inspecting the virtual assistant's work to make sure it's right. So was that something you were doing, or was that more Kate?
Yeah, that's because Kate's physically present, I want her to be the face of the business while I'm gone, so I can have more communication with the virtual assistants, and we can work through those. And it was a lot of downloading property lists, finding contact information, communicating with those, making initial points of contact with them, and then once people respond, then Kate or I take over from there.
So before I get to Jen, I really want to hear some of your systems you put in place here a minute from now, Jen. But so Adam, what would you say your role, like what physically changed with you gone? What became your highest and best use of time, your highest dollar producing activity? Did that change remotely versus what it was in person?
No, my highest and best use is the same on that trip as it is now. It's prospecting from 9 to 11 a.m. in the morning. That's it. I need to be able to be, bring in leads for the team. And especially in the situation where we're gone, making sure that the team, especially a new agent, feels comfortable that they're going to have enough business coming in, and co-listing everything. So that's it. Bring in deals, and that has to be what I was doing every day. It changed a little. That job doesn't change, but the technology required to do it changed.
Right. So you were leveraging technology. You were recognizing and focusing on your highest and best use of time. You were training for areas that you didn't have to really be a part of. Yep. So that's kind of how your workflow went in order to make you available to leave, or make it possible for you to leave. Jen, how about you? What's some of your systems? Like when you left, what systems did you have in place? And being a high D, us high Ds don't always have the best system build out. We're like, just go. We'll figure it out.
I don't know what you mean, Mike.
Yeah, right. We're like, we'll figure it out as we go. Jump in. So tell me a little bit about what you experienced, because from more of a high C or analytical mindset, you can do some system build out way ahead of time, test it, beta it, make sure it's going to be good. Us IDs are like, just going to jump in. So tell me about your experience.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what happened. But I think it's important too that I took the team from 10 down to 4 before I left. I realized, working like 70, 80 plus hours a week, it wasn't really getting any traction. And I think part of that too was why I wanted to kind of get out of town so bad too. It was like this idea of what success is, like for me, was like you had to have this big team, and then like you could leave and go on vacation, and it's like running without you and all this stuff. And I was like, it just doesn't work for me. Like I like doing business. Like I like cold calling. Like I like doing these things. I don't want to like give that piece up. So we took it down to 4 people, which was 1 assistant, 2 other agents, and myself. And then even for the last like year or so before that, I was cold calling a lot and doing a lot of the like getting the leads. And so we actually use Vulcan 7 for that. So that didn't change. I still use it now, and I used it the whole time. But like what Adam said, the only thing that did change was that I had to prospect 8 a.m. Eastern time. So like in Europe, that's in the afternoon. In Malaysia, it's at night, it's 8 o'clock at night prospecting. Right. Yeah. We co-listed everything, but then the biggest like for me, I don't have any kids. And so like my team were like my babies. So for me, like it was really important that they didn't feel like I was gone. So one of the big things that we did is we used Zoom a lot. And so I kept my same schedule as I did at home. I kept my same morning schedule, I guess I should say. I just did it at like Eastern time. So at 7:20, I have an affirmation and role play partner. At 7:30, I talked to like my main listing agent. And then at 7:50, everybody got on Zoom. So we could like see each other. They knew I was working. I could see them. We could have like a chat like, hey, whatever was going on. And that was really important.
So a couple of things. One, so Jen, you kind of slimmed down your team.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love it.
I think you grew your team in terms of admin and support, right? Yep. So both of you guys took a different direction there. But one commonality I'm really seeing is both of you remained in the role of the rainmaker.
Mm-hmm. I guess, yeah, we did.
You know, so define what might have changed there. Before you left and you were doing rainmaker activity, were you physically meeting buyers and sellers or investors at the properties, or were you already passing that piece off prior?
I was already passing it off. I would fill in if they were off. And so like that still did happen. So like at Thanksgiving this year, or not this past year, but in the year before, I was in Prague, but the agents, they wanted to be off. So I took all the phones. So I basically had 4 phones like coming to my cell phone, and I was like on call and that would have been the same even if I would have been at home. Like I don't really meet buyers and sellers. I do now because we're now down to only 3 of us. It's me, another agent, and then we have a transaction coordinator, and he's in Florida for a month and a half.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which is awesome. But really our revenue, we were doing 10 to 15 million in revenue, and we did 10 million while I was gone, slimming down like that. So it got like clearer, it got more focused, but really what happened was we can do it in less time because I'm not spending the time training agents, and we don't have the overhead of all the admin.
So basically it was addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
And you're able then to focus more on your highest dollar producing activities, which is your rainmaker activity, instead of training and supporting agents. That's
right.
What it sounds like, right? So Adam, what about you?
I want to piggyback on Jen's comment because that was one of the big things that we both, came back and were like, how is this possible? How can we strip this down and her do the same? And mine actually grew. And I link it back to like that high school paper or college, essay that was due, and you waited till the night before to write it, and there's no way you should have been able to finish it, but somehow you got it turned in, you got more than a passing grade. Yeah. Well. And I think that entire time we were traveling, that same mindset was going on, because for us, it's not like we have 1 week in these places. I bet we both probably averaged about a month in each place that we stayed. But, if I know I can make my phone calls, get some leads for the team, bring in business, and get my stuff done in 4 to 5 hours a day, that gives me more time to explore, this amazing beach in Bali, or, this nice mountain in, the Republic of Georgia. So we got really, really hyper-focused on our activities. And that was cool to see that, especially now I'm back here in Cincinnati, and I find myself just filling time and having 8 to 10 hour days again from time to time. But I know that, when you want to get focused on something and get something done, that you can.
Which really brings me to this point. 2 points, actually. First off, I see this as a major pitfall for a lot of agents, that when you get in these, when you get out of your normal element and you go to travel and it's distracting, it's got to at least be distracting to be in all these cool places. And you got to force yourself to focus and buckle down. And as you said, hyper-focus on doing the right activities for a shorter amount of time to produce even more resultant revenue and income. So how much of a challenge was that for either of you guys to be, stimulated visually by all these, cool things you're seeing, but, oh, wait, I've got to go at 8 o'clock at night and start prospecting now. I mean, that had to be difficult.
Well, for me, I was traveling with a group of 32 other people that were also working. And a lot of them, there was a lot of people from California, but then, but we still had some people on Eastern time zone like me. So we were all working. Plus, like what Adam said, we're there for a month. So it's not like, I think when people leave, they're leaving out of exhaustion and they're leaving to take a break. And that's totally different than our reasons for leaving. Like I'm even going at the end of this month, I'm going to South Africa for a month. And it was like a no brainer. Like 14 of my friends are going to be there and we're all working and enjoying South Africa. It's a different mindset.
And that's what I was getting at. There's got to be a different mindset attached to this because, you know, for most of us, we have these routines. And when you get out of a routine, it seems like it's hard to figure out like how to calibrate. And you guys are in different spots all the time.
Yeah.
And you're calibrating quickly. So I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So Adam, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think I think Jen and I are both there now that we understand traveling will be a big part of our lives for forever. You know, and when you look at it like that and you know that you have the ability to do business from abroad or from you have the system set up to just continually be able to, you know, build and grow your business, there's a lot less pressure in like maximizing every minute or hour that you have in a country. And I think that helps the distraction because I knew that, you know, all right, I'm going to work 4 hours tonight. I mean, my wife and I, you know, we're fine, you know, we'll go out and have a good time, but we weren't like, you know, getting blitzed every night. It wasn't like maybe your typical like trip to Hawaii where you're going to have, you know, 10 Mai Tais every day or something like that. You know, we're there to work, you know, our 4 to 5 hours, enjoy the day in the morning and get back on Eastern Standard Time. So there's a lot less pressure when I think you know that there's this period of extended travel or that, you know, you have the confidence you can continue to do business when you're traveling. I remember when I first started doing real estate and I'd go on a vacation, I'd come back and like 5 deals had blown up. It's like, what happened? And
yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe they were going to blow up either way, but I just got back from a baby moon. My wife and I are expecting in February, and I had, you know, 6 or 7 deals going on. I was negotiating a few inspections in the morning, really early in Hawaii. And I got back from my trip and everything that was under contract when I left was still under contract when I got back. So I'm sure a lot of that has to do with experience and, you know, being in year 6 or, you know, whatever now, but I think also just the confidence that came from those travel.
I think too, like for me, every time we switched countries, we're switching languages, we're switching culture. We would always leave on a Saturday. And so depending on where we were going, we would usually also get there on Saturday. And it took me usually Sunday, I would like go to the grocery store because we're staying in an apartment. So there's things that you need. Like I need soap, I would get shampoo and conditioner and just like some food. And so I would do that on Sunday, get kind of acclimated to the area, find the workspace, decide how, you know, depending on the time zone, was I going to walk, Uber, or not go? Was I going to work from home? And then by Monday was a little bit frustrating usually because if I was going to go to the workspace, we have to like make sure we can get access because a lot of them were like closed on Sunday. We had to like make sure we were logged into the internet, like all this stuff. But then by like Monday afternoon, it was fine.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about too, you know, in terms of really running a real estate business successfully, you have to be able to control your schedule, right? I mean, you have to be able to time block, you know, your prospecting time and time block your, you know, when you're working on your business versus in your business. And it sounds like you guys actually got more productive and more efficient, shorter amounts of time than and let's face it, how many times have you seen this scenario play out? An agent shows up they come in the morning after screwing around at home for a while. They pour their coffee, they screw around at home. They come in, they hit the office at 9 o'clock. They maybe catch a meeting or a training. They BS by the water cooler. It's finally noon. They shuffle some papers around. Then they go to lunch. They come back. They got one house to show. They end up getting home by 5:30 at night. They're like, "Oh, honey, I was so busy today." You know, and you're like, you really weren't busy. You just shuffled things around and pretended to be busy. You're lying to yourself, right? We see that all the time in the industry, but you guys are traveling, you're out of the country, you've got a short period of time to hyper-focus on making income, because if you don't, I'm sure your business is in real trouble with you across the world, right? So do you think that having that...
Or there, if you're not focused on making business, it doesn't matter where you are.
True, yeah. I mean, but you're like literally away from home. If your business starts to collapse, what are you going to do about it? I mean, you can't even go in the office and even have a conversation with people, right? So I guess my point is you had to be pretty hyper-focused on those, you know, keeping to some sort of schedule and having a task list every single day that was non-negotiable that you had to get those things done. So did you find that you actually felt more productive and efficient being out of the country? Because it kind of sounds like it to a point.
I think definitely more, yes, more productive and more efficient because like Adam said, I mean, when you go from shuffling papers around and working 70 hours, pretending like you're busy to, oh crap, I want to go to the Sahara Desert today. But in order to do that, like I need to make some phone calls. Right. You're going to make your freaking phone calls, you know, like your intensity amps up with your focus. And so we both worked only like 25 hours while we were gone. His business increased 27%. Our revenue stayed the same. So yeah, of course, you know, when you want to do something like I want to go on a hot air balloon ride over the pyramids in Mexico. I didn't even know they had pyramids in Mexico. Like I want to go see that, you know, like you get focused.
I might need the 10 Mai Tais first before I do that hot air balloon, but you know what? We'll talk about that. So tell me, you know, looking back, hindsight, you know, what may have you done differently going into this? Like your next round of, I'm going to go for a year. What would you do differently this time?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because as Jen was just talking there, and I wish I could say that I was like this, you know, super disciplined person, knew that I needed to time block my prospecting and everything like the day that I left. Like that didn't really, you know, take form or shape until about month 2 or 3 when I was like, all right, this feels like a jumbled mess. We were trying to work from our apartments or coffee shops. It didn't feel like working in an office. I needed to. So for me, you know, just to finish that last conversation, I think I had to really get serious. We started renting co-working spaces. We paid for a dedicated desk, and then we defined those times. And it was at that point that, you know, I was like, all right, now I can see how I can stabilize this and everything. So going back, I would do that from the get-go. Jen had a great little trick that she did to make sure that her team knew that she wasn't off gallivanting. I mean, she was gallivanting at times, but it wasn't all the time. She had herself set up on a computer in her office with her face on a Zoom call. So that whenever her team members came in, they'd see that she's in there making phone calls at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there's no doubt about it that she is doing that. So if I go back, when I go back and do my next trip, I'm going to have an extra computer in my office, and my assistant will be turning on the Zoom call, and everybody will be able to pop in and see me making my calls. That is one of the most brilliant things that I thought she came up with, and that's, you know, no brainer.
I think too, how you behave in like at home is how you're going to behave abroad. So like, yeah, if you're an undisciplined person, like you'll be undisciplined no matter where you are. I don't think that location matters. So for me, I mean, I've been doing the business a long time. I'm a Mike Ferry cold calling trained agent. So like, I understand what I have the link between making calls and making money. And I want to make money so that I can travel and buy investment properties. So I think once people make that link, it will be a no-brainer because they'll know the best way that they can make money, and they'll know the times and the activities that are the highest and best use for them in order to do that.
So it sounds like, you know, to piggyback off my own question, what you might do differently going forward, advising other agents if they were to do this, and I know we're going to end up talking about, you know, the travelingrealtor.com, but advising other people before they do this, what advice would you have for them saying, look, if you're going to go do this and you're going to travel, here's the must-haves or the must-dos?
For me, 100%. I wish, so I've got a great database that allows me to manipulate it and change it around and change functions and all that. And over the time period from when we started to build it before we left the trip to where it is now, I wish I had the database I have now to go on that initial trip. So that would be the biggest one for me, is like, get your contacts and your properties into something that's not on paper. And this is coming from a guy who is just as much of a dimwit as Jen is when it comes to technology. You know, you can figure it out. If you struggle with technology, I promise you just dedicate time to doing it and get yourself into a database and like feed it and like live out of it every day for at least 2 hours, and everything, all your problems will go away. You know?
Nice.
And I would say, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't travel one country a month for a year. Looking back, that was just too much moving all the time. I would probably stay, well, I plan on staying like 3 or 4 months in each country when I go back to do it more long term. But in between times, I'm doing like month trips and going with people that are also working. Cause like I like being around people. I get energy from people. So like, I would say go with a group.
Gotcha. Love that. Okay. So another question I would have then moving forward. So Adam, you've kind of ramped up your team for the travel with the virtual assistants. And we did have a couple questions on Facebook, by the way, which if you're outsourcing that to like a virtual assistant company,
yep,
or if you're kind of hiring on your own. So first off, you know, do you have a company you're working through? And if so, who do you recommend?
So the course that I took, actually our team manager here at our brokerage brought Craig Bidlip to our office, and he taught an 8-week course in one day. It was grueling, and we took tons of notes. And he basically taught us how to find a virtual assistant through Craigslist. I tried to do that, and it was tough. So I ended up going through Upwork, which is where I have it now. I posted the job description, and I got a bunch of applicants. And the same way I went through the process of hiring my executive assistant, I narrowed that down from 30 executive assistant or 30 virtual assistant positions, gave them a few different tests and exams for them to go through to figure out if they should move to the portion where I take the phone call or the face-to-face. And then once I narrowed it down to 2 or 3 people, I brought in Kate, who at that point was 3 or 4 months as a licensed agent, and we interviewed those people together. And then we still use Upwork now, and we have them on our team for 20 hours a week. And it's like the writing's on the wall that we need to move that to 40 hours a week. They're bringing in leads that are so much cheaper than anything I could ever imagine.
Nice.
And we need to maximize that.
And then, back to my original question then. So, it looks like you were scaling up your team to leave. Jennifer, you were kind of scaling down and slimming it down, but to grow your team or the next level of business, do you guys feel like you're going to do any more hires? If so, what is your next key hire? And again, back to that question of, if I'm an agent thinking of doing this, what key hires do I need in place? So kind of a 2-part question. For you guys personally, what's your next key hire if you're going to do one? I'll kind of start with you, Jen, if you want to start.
Okay. No, we're actually really happy with where we're at. So, 10 million in revenue, 50, 60 deals, like that really works for us. There's 2 agents. We can kind of come and go as we please. It's really nice. It's nice. A good life. Yep. Expenses are super low. So it's nice. And then your second, if everybody's situation is a little bit different, as you know. So like, I've built and shrank the business in a lot of different ways. What works out for most people, I would say, is definitely an assistant so that they can focus on sales. And then if they're going to leave, deciding if they want to take on somebody on their team or if they just want to have like referral partners. Because now we'll use referral partners if it's like a deal that we don't, either we're both gone or like whatever, we don't want to do it or whatever. We have a couple of people that I've trained that we will then like refer out to. And that works a lot better because then we can be friends because their production is not really good enough for the team, or not good enough, but our goals aren't the same. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we can just be friends and they can do what they're good at and then we can do what we're good at.
Nice. How about you, Adam? Key hires?
It's not necessarily a hire, but as I just mentioned, I think we're definitely going to increase our virtual assistants. So we're going to double their time.
Yep.
So that's going to happen here. I mean, very soon. I saw a message go through earlier today that said we need more time to do this. And I'm only allotting them 20 hours a week. So that'll happen. And I have a baby due in February. I think the way our team is structured right now, that gets me easily through like March or April, but when I come back, I'm going to take a look and see if there's, a buyer's agent might be the next
one. Okay. Because, the way I'm looking at it in my head, I mean, someone's got to do a lot of the transactional processing, right? So like a transaction coordinator or something like that. You just mentioned referral partners. So I'm thinking, what are you guys leveraging? Do you have showing assistants? Do you have, referral partners? Do you have, lenders that you're leveraging to help out in your partners there. So tell me a little bit about all the different things that you are leveraging being virtual. That'd be great if we could touch on that too.
I mean, we do have a transaction coordinator, and she's actually local. She works from home, but she's local. So if we need somebody to like run a sign or a pre-listing packet or something like that, she can do it. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, we do, of course, have lenders and stuff that we use. We're pretty listing heavy, so we don't really depend on the lenders as much as if you were showing more buyers.
Sure.
But then we kind of get it narrowed down. It's like if it's not in the scope, like maybe it's not the price point or it's not in the area where we want to do business, then we do have our referral partners. And then depending on if we're going to keep the transaction and keep the client, or if they're going to keep them, we'll do different splits.
Gotcha. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, as far as what we've leveraged out, I mean, for sure there were times where Kate, who was our only physical presence when I was gone, that she wasn't available to do showings. So we've got a huge office here, and there's a list of 4 or 5 of them that if we get in a pinch, we pay per showing. But other than that, we're able to handle our current load. And sorry about that if that came through. So right now, no, we're not using lenders for that or using lenders in any facet or showing assistance right now.
Gotcha. So another,
Mike, I think one thing that Adam and I both realized too is that sometimes when we're in town and we have nothing else to do, we kind of make a mess of things that aren't a mess.
Right.
So like when you're gone, there weren't a lot of emergencies. I mean, maybe like when I was gone for the year, maybe there was one time I was like, should I come back?
Right.
And my agents were like, no, we'll get it figured out. I mean, one time in a whole, like it just doesn't, there's no real big emergencies. We're making that crap up.
That's the thing is this industry tends to be hyper overreactive, right? Because what we're really trying to do is, provide this amazing customer experience for the people we're working with. If one thing starts to go wrong, we all like our hair's on fire and we need to fix it right now. But the more you can step back, let your processes take place and have calmer heads, the more you can see that it's not always an emergency, right?
Right.
So, Adam, other leverage pieces.
Man, all right. Let me run through them all here. Database is one. My virtual assistants, I swear they like do they're starting to take over my 9 to 11 time in the morning, which is great. So I can focus on making sure our other agents on the team are having success as well. Executive assistant.
So what's your executive assistant doing for you? Like, I'm sure people at home, and by the way, somebody wanted to know on the chat here, how many deals, we heard what Jennifer's closing, how many deals a year you're closing? Yeah,
so last year as a team, we were right around just under 10 million. So it's 31 deals with an average sale price of around 330,000.
I love your average sale price.
Yeah. We were doing some bigger investment and commercial deals, which helped skew that number a lot. Right. But we also had a good handful of like some flips that were under 100,000 too. So,
right. But in terms of, in terms of your executive assistant, what exactly was her daily duties like? So I think a lot of people struggle with that when they try to step away and pass some things off to delegate. They don't know exactly what to do with that delegation, what to hand off. Yeah.
So I didn't have her when I was gone. She was not on our team. So it was just me, Kate, and the virtual assistant and a closing coordinator. But now, when she came on, there were like 4 buckets I wanted her to fill. I wanted her to increase systems and efficiencies, work on our help with our marketing, property management, because I own some investment property, and there was a 4th one. Either way, we found out that we had too much on her plate. So now we've narrowed that down to she's continuing to maximize the amount that we can leverage our virtual assistant. So she is helping to build that. We just have a target board, and we take certain prospects through a set of contacts, whether it's text, email, slide dial, direct mail, bring them back through text, email, get them to like 7 or 8 touches. And then after that, we put them on a quarterly touch program. So she's helped build that. And that is like already She's only been with us 4 or 5 months, and we just started to really get that thing humming. So I'm just wanting her to keep focusing on that. We're throwing more and more on the fire, and then the closing coordination side.
So is your virtual assistants then primarily focused on lead gen or task completion? Or
now
both?
they're lead gen. So for example, there's a neighborhood in Cincinnati called Pleasant Ridge. It's where I live, and it's where I started selling a lot. And I say, hey, download a list of every multifamily in this neighborhood. I want you to give me the property address, the owner's mailing address, their phone numbers, their emails, and then from there we load them into our database, and then we take them through that 7 or 8 touch program.
So both of you guys that worked virtually, I heard from you, Adam, about your database, but and I think, Jen, you were talking about Zoom, but what other technology are you leveraging to pull this off? If you're going to be gone for a year, what technology are you leveraging in order to run your business so that your team doesn't feel like you're gone all the time?
Slack.
Well, our biggest thing was, what's that, Adam?
I was saying Slack. Slack was one that, was crucial for us.
So
you had a Slack channel going. Good. How about you, Jen?
I hate Slack, and I'm not that good with technology. So we did, my biggest thing was I had a Skyroam hotspot. And so when I was like at my house or at the workspace, I could call on Wi-Fi. But the hotspot then, like if I was gone, then I just turned that Wi-Fi on, and I could make and receive calls through my local phone number, which was that was our biggest thing.
Gotcha.
Because nobody knew I was really gone. Some of our clients are my friends, or some of our past clients are friends, and they knew, but nobody else knew. Because it's not like, if you really look and see how often are you actually seeing your clients face to face, in the same room, it's very rare. We did a price reduction conversation with a client over Zoom today.
Nice.
And we're all in town.
How about at the closing? Are you guys showing up, or is somebody showing up at the closing with the clients? Do you have somebody there, or just having title escrow take care of it for you?
Mike, I have a giant soapbox about closings, but the short version is if my preference is that the title company go to where the buyer or seller is and close with them, and that the lender has already gone over the paperwork. So the closing's not such this gigantic, scary event. It doesn't need to be. But if they are, it depends on the client, right? If they're a high I, yes, somebody goes. So we co-listed everything. So whoever the co-agent is, and even now we still co-list, and my partner's gone. So if the client needs me there, I will go.
Gotcha.
And when he's back, he will go.
I think a lot of agents, feel like they need to be at every home inspection. They need to feel like they need
to be. God, no.
And they've got that in their mind. Again, they're trying to provide that amazing customer experience, but they end up kind of, hamstringing themselves because you can't do all these pieces every single day and still continue to grow your business, right? So,
right.
Thank you, Adam. How about you? How did you handle? Well, let's finish the technology piece. Because I know you said you did Slack. Was there anything else that you were leveraging heavily during your absence?
Leveling heavily. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but that database continued to get fine-tuned and changed. Basically, we use Monday.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's not like Vulcan. Jen crushes Vulcan, I believe, still, and that's how she downloads hers. And we kind of, we get to create within this program called Monday. You can create exactly what you want your database to look like. It doesn't have the same capabilities to call directly from or text from, but we figured out workarounds with the virtual assistants. So on the technology side, I will 100% agree with Jen. That was a crucial part of when you're abroad, is having that hotspot. So when I leave and jump on a moped from my co-working space to drive 15 or 20 minutes back to wherever I'm living in, I'm trying to think of an example, in Vietnam, that, if we stop for some food on the way back because it's a Saturday night and some fun things are going on, if somebody calls us for some reason, I've got access, because you can't always guarantee that, depending on what your phone plan is, that you're going to have access if you want to pay a reasonable price. So hotspot, database, Slack, those were probably our top 3.
And Zoom.
And Zoom. Definitely. And how do you feel about database management? First off, 2 questions for you. One, database management, and also what CRM. We have a question about what CRM you were using when you were gone. So for both you guys, I'll start with you, Adam, but how important Do you feel like the organizing, keeping solid tags, and really keeping a good triage of your database of who you should be talking to? If your time's limited and you can only focus for X amount of minutes or hours, I'm sure you're focused on trying to talk to the exact right people at the right time, right? So talk us through that workflow a little bit.
Yeah, and as I said, I think this is a good point to just mention. Like I think I'm every day still defining like who deserves to be in my tier 1 of properties, property owners, or investors, and that was happening because I was in my 4th year of business. Like I by no means like knew everything that I was doing. It seemed like such a leap of faith. But by living in that database, you constantly redefine like who's worth talking to every day or every week, and so the database for me, the way I triage that is that as I mentioned earlier, I have property owners, because I'm thinking now in my mindset that I only work with investors. That I have property owners, and then I have investors. And if you're an investor, for us, there's at least 2 things that have to be done and really it's 3 things for you to be in our tier 1. You had to have filled out a buyer agreement that if we show you an off-market property, I don't care if you see stuff on the MLS and you want to go buy with somebody else. There's really no deals that are moving in our market, investment properties that are listed. So if I show you an off-market property and you want to buy it, you will buy through us, and there's a buyer's agreement that we've created. There's a survey that's been filled out as well, and that tells us what your buying criteria is. And then the third one is if you're in tier 1, you need to own property or provide us proof of funds that show you've got the capability of taking this down. So those 3 things that would put you in our tier 1, and that would be the person that we take seriously. We'll show you our properties first, and we would expect that you'd be closing deals with us. On the property side, really that's more for me. It's like a feel thing as we bring our virtual assistants through the program, and somebody it depends on their verbiage, like how they respond. Our texts or our emails are very vague. Like, hey, are you the owner of 123 Main Street? We got buyers looking to purchase in the area. Have you ever considered selling? And then sometimes they'll say piss off, or sometimes they'll say, and then at that point, we don't get rid of them. I still move them into tier 3, and that's a quarterly, right? That's every 3 months. And then through that conversation, they might say, well, if you give me an offer I can't refuse, I would. So maybe that's monthly. And then somebody says, oh yeah, my wife is divorcing me, and we both own the property. We need to get rid of something like that. Then that would put me in tier 1. So that's how I'm dividing my time, I guess.
So you're dividing it by basically how transactional they are right now, and then you're trying to look for clues to see really if they're transactional right now or down the line, which is great. What's CRM, by the way, Adam?
Monday.com.
That's what it is. Okay, I got that. So Monday.com. Jen, for you?
For us, I use Vulcan as my CRM. And so once I set the appointment, it actually goes to my partner, Alan, and he uses Lion Desk for them. And so then he just follows up and goes on the appointment and does kind of like all the other stuff. And he'll loop me in on communication with them, either email or text. We have a lot of group chats on text through that. So it's pretty simple. I don't like to get it really, because we make it more complicated than it is. And it's really just like talking to people, as many people as you can, at least 20 a day, and you will do business. Complexity
kills business, right? The more simple you make it, the more it's going to work. So let's just move in a little bit. We're getting on a little short on time. So I want to move into what you guys have on this travelingrealtor.com, I believe it is. Tell me about this program. People are curious now. I think everybody watching this right now just booked a trip to somewhere, and they're just like, I don't care how I'm going to do this. Now I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to figure it out.
Do it.
So everybody's inspired. So tell us a little bit about this program.
Well, it runs for 1 month, and it's twice a week, 1 hour each time. And we really dive into like the nuts and bolts of like how specifically we did it, and then really like what are your plans, and answering some questions around that too. Okay.
Anything to add to that, Adam?
Yeah, and I think there's the business side of it, which I think we will be able to help a whole lot more with. But then there's also like the logistics side of it, of things we had no idea, planning for shots and vaccinations and, where you need visas for and actually what are the things you need to bring on this trip technology wise, maybe for work, but then also like clothes. Jen, I think, lived out of like a backpack. It was so impressive. I overpacked. So a lot of the nuts and bolts, as she said, and then we finish off with just the mindset of just really, like you don't have to have this massive business to be able to justify being able to do this. Like by all, I don't think my business like really justified being able to do this, but my wife and I just had confidence that we were going to be able to figure it out. And
would you say that it's a fair statement that your business doesn't have to be massive, but it has to be efficient? Like you have to actually have a legitimate, business plan and workflows, or it just won't work. Like it's got to be systematic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now about the travelingrealtor.com, there's a registration page that we're going to post on Lab Coats, but is there a cost to this? Tell us about the nitty gritty here.
The cost is, you guys get a discount. We're offering a discount through Lab Coat agents. So it'll end up being $197 for the whole month. And that gets them, that'll get the course unlimited access to the Facebook group that we have just for the course. We post updates all the time. So we're working on 2 updates now. One is, because Adam and I are both investors, how to like manage property and do rentals while you're gone. And then I'm single, and so I did a lot of dating. So we're going to do something on that for the people that are single, because it's kind of fun when you're around the world. And so they'll have the lifetime access for that too. And then we are also offering, we'll do like a specific coaching session just for the Lab Coat agents, people that sign up for the January 7th class, just for them.
Gotcha. Love it. All right. So anything else before closing statements before we let out here? So first off, thanks for coming on today, guys. I'm sure everybody found this to be really helpful. So any closing statements before we end for the day?
For me, I'm sure everybody knows who Anthony Bourdain is. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but like 100% was one of the biggest drivers of me and my wife taking this trip. And I just love that he just encouraged people to, step out of their comfort zone. And I'm so thankful for, him being on the air. And I just think it's crazy that, that we were able to do that, what we did. It seemed like something was only allowed for like these big personalities like Anthony Bourdain or, Padma, and after getting back from it, like there's just so much confidence that I gained from this trip. And I would just really encourage people, and it doesn't have to be like this big 9 or 12 month trip. It could just be, you just take more 1-month trips and feel comfortable that your business is going to be okay. I think we can definitely help with that. And if anything, Jen and I are just, really hopeful that, we can encourage a few more people to see the world and be comfortable to run their real estate business while they're doing it.
Jen, anything to add to that?
That was great. You'll get a lot more out of it than you could ever imagine. And I think like for me, I knew that there had to be, I was accomplishing personal goals. I was accomplishing business goals, but it was like, it's just not enough. And there was something missing. And for me now, it just became very clear. And I just never expected that to happen.
Well, I took a lot out of this today, guys, from the mindset piece of it, to get out of your own way, to let your business run while you can step away from it, that you don't have to be so hands-on, because that actually inhibits your growth, really, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I also took away that, if you're really listening to both of you guys, what I'm pulling out of this is you were really hyper-focused on building your pipeline. It's not about one buyer or seller at a time. You guys are focused on building this pipeline that provides opportunities so you can step away. So there's always something happening down the line, regardless if you're there or not, which is another kind of key takeaway that I'm gathering from you two today. And then last, that, as you're abroad, you're really spending your time in a more efficient way. So you can actually build that pipeline and create the revenue that you can stay abroad. So, those are 3 major takeaways I had. Is there any other takeaways or nuggets before we let out right now that you want to drop? Because this is the final minute here. I
would say keep it simple. Like your business, you will realize the key things that you do to make money.
Love it.
Coming from a person who overthinks and analyzes and gets in the way of everything, stop doing that. Get out of the way.
Stop it.
Have trust and faith that you know that you're hiring the right people, or you're surrounding yourself with the right team, and a lot is possible when you do that.
Love it, guys. Well, thank you very much, Lab Coat Agent.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a great day, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.